From this beautiful snowscape in Knoxville, I had some thoughts on the mainstream narrative being put into three different buckets, or infinite buckets, but at least three. Could be n buckets, 100 buckets, 200 buckets, and there's intersecting spheres, like a Venn diagram but in 3D. And basically, throughout human history, we have a mainstream narrative which nobody questions. So, through the university system and through the news media and through books being written and textbooks and what's taught in schools, we have a certain dogma, if you will. And outside of that, if you challenge the dogma, you were thrown out, like Galileo tried to do. Almost every scientist, before their discoveries were proven, was outside of this kind of sphere of the collective subconscious, which is controlled. But in my view, this is very limited. So, for example, here's four things that I don't believe. I don't believe in junk DNA. So we know only 5% of our DNA, the other 95 or 90% or whatever is junk DNA. Same thing with dark matter. 5%, 10% of the universe, 90% is dark matter, dark energy. We don't know what it is, how it exists. I don't think that that's accurate. Actually, the opposite is true. It's probably that in that 90% is where you have other dimensions, all kinds of paranormal phenomenon, and all kinds of interesting things. I don't believe in primordial soup. I don't believe that it's possible statistically, no matter given infinite time, if you take lightning and this primordial soup, that you'll have amoebas which become fish, which become frogs, which become monkeys, which become man. Not because it's hard to believe. It's there's no evidence of that, and it's physically impossible. There are links between humans and apes. That's true. We are like apes, but there's no evidence that we evolved from apes. Okay, so that means there is evidence of a creator or creators who helped move our DNA forward. Also, there's evidence that we had some help with technology. For example, computers. It's technology beyond our understanding. You have a lot of smart computer scientists. It's not about that. It's about who invented lasers. If you read Corso from the military, he speaks of a program in the military where we reverse engineer technology from unknown, non human sources, and then some of it, after it's no longer a national defense advantage, is drip leaked into Silicon Valley, into IBM, into corporations, Apple, and so on and so forth. So, in other words, there's this pool of knowledge, if we put it like in a circle, and that's kind of like our pen or our domain that we're allowed to think about and speculate. And if you roam outside of that, if you go off the reservation, you're punished, people react negatively, and that is how they control us, because inside of this realm is the realm of paying taxes, eating GMO foods, being on the rat wheel, just getting your other pellet. And so, what I'm looking forward to is that when we're penetrating outside of this narrative, we're seeing a whole different pool of intelligence that's coming. But we don't have words to describe it, we don't have tools to test it, we don't have a mechanism to really define what's going on, because it's all happening either, you can say, outside of this pen, or it could be like in another dimension, another timeline, another space time, however you want to define it. It's not something that we're comfortable dealing with, because since we're little kids, we're taught that we should process things in a certain way. We should think about certain things in a certain way. We should ask only certain questions and not others. Like, for example, reincarnation is a fantasy. Aliens are a fantasy. Everything, all these things, it's science fiction. And to a certain extent, science fiction films are soft disclosure, but to a larger extent, they're also showing the population that, oh, these things are just fantasy. UFOs, all this stuff is just fantasy. It's not real. I want to see the evidence. I want to see a body. Never mind the fact that the non-human looking ETs can't come to Earth and show themselves because they don't do well in this environment. I mean, some do, but others can't take the pressure or the atmosphere or whatever conditions. And that's why some of these beings that were in these crashed ships that came and crashed, they died. Even with the medical care, we didn't have a means to care about them. And in our environment, they just couldn't survive. So I'm going to write an article about this, but the thought is that as we're moving into disclosure, it's really about escaping this domain or escaping this limited hangout that we've been in for thousands of years and achieving a new narrative which is just limitless, and we can understand what is junk DNA. It's actually the good part of our DNA, probably. Maybe we have connections to the cosmos or to who knows what that is, but we're going to have all those answers, and that's super exciting. So, happy new year, and this will be an article soon. Have a great day.